Stassi Schroeder is throwing some shade at Jax and Brittany. We have Tom Sandoval, who's calling out James Kennedy for the rumors. And then we also have Kathryn Dennis from Southern Charm that just got arrested. I hope you're ready. Let's get it. You're listening to No Filter with Zach Peter, your go-to source for all the latest pop culture and reality TV tea, served fresh all week long. Now, let's dive in. What's up, everybody? Welcome on in. Happy, what is today? Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day. What's up? There will be a new episode of the Pop Report dropping today, and then we have a very special guest that's going to be joining us on the Pop Report this Friday. So be sure to check out and tune into the Pop Report and catch No Filter. Thank you guys for coming on in early with me today. It is Pop Report taping day, so I'm going to have to head right into the studio to tape that right after this. But happy Wednesday. I hope you guys, your week is off to a fairly good start. Hopefully you caught up on the Vanderpump Rules reunion. We're going to be talking about part 2 today. But before we do that, we do have day. And that is the one and only Kathryn Dennis from Southern Charm has been arrested. You just got arrested. And we actually have a mugshot. Unlike Shannon Bedore, we got Kathryn's mugshot. Here it is. She's posing. She's got her little Lindsay Lohan thing going on. I do feel badly for her for sure, but I don't know. No, I don't feel badly for her. She got a DUI. Well, here's the thing. I have a feeling she may get off on this DUI if she gets a good attorney. So she was pulled over on Monday night in South Carolina. Cops, I guess, were going to issue her a traffic ticket, and then they spotted an open container. Now, you're not allowed to have an open container of alcohol in your car. Open container doesn't necessarily mean that you've been drinking, but, definitely within the realm of possibility, right? So there was some form, maybe it was a beer, maybe it was a beer can. Regardless, you shouldn't have an open, if it's in like your cup holder display and it's like a beer, like that is not a good sign. If the cops pull you over, like why not hide that? But they suspected that she may have been possibly impaired. They used the word possibly in their report. They said that her eyes were glossy and that there was an odor of alcohol coming from her, which led to her arrest. She's now due in court on June 4th. Now, because they used the term possibly impaired, it doesn't seem like they conducted any field sobriety test in the moment. And all they had was her eyes were glossy and there was an odor of alcohol coming from her. She could say maybe there was a beer and it spilled on me, or because there's an open container, that could be the smell of alcohol. I don't know if they did a breathalyzer test and again, it doesn't sound like there was any field sobriety test, but they took her in with a good attorney. It sounds like based off of the details that were reported by TMZ, sounds like she may be able to get off on this one. Not that she should, and not that I'm endorsing her behavior or endorsing getting a DUI or drinking behind the wheel, but just gotta say, that was those details. Me, if I were an attorney, I'd be like, oh, this sounds like a pretty solid case to win for my client. We'll see what happens. But 3-car collision and an open container. I'm scared of how things are going to end up with her. It will be tragic. I know. People were saying that Thomas Ravenau is going to have a field day with this. Obviously, she has kids with Thomas Ravenau. They both used to be on Southern Charm. Thomas exited the series fairly early on in some of the earlier seasons, and she stayed on up until, I don't think it was the last season. Was it this last season or the season before that she got booted off from? I think it was this most recent past season that was her first season that wasn't on, if I'm not mistaken. But not looking good for her. I hate to agree with everybody in the live chat about how much things are just not going to end well for her. She just seems to always be in some sort of mess, always circling the drain in some way, and it's unfortunate. And I just want her to get her shit together, mainly for her kids. That way she can, live her best life. That's what, that's what I want for her, and that's what I'm hoping the people around her and her friends can help her get it together. But that's Kathryn. She definitely doesn't help herself. No, she doesn't. She always gets herself into some sort of mess. But furthermore, we also have Stassi Schroeder, who is throwing a little shade at Jax Taylor and Brittany Cartwright. So we know that they had some beef, right, related to Stassi's wedding. Stassi invited Jax and Brittany. Jax and Brittany were like, we're coming to the wedding. We're not coming to the wedding. We're coming to the wedding. We're not coming to the wedding. And Stassi and Beau were like, they said that they were coming to the wedding. That's what they told us. But then Jax was telling other people that he wasn't planning on going to the wedding. So then we find out the week of the wedding, Jax and Brittany decide, I think it was 2 days before they were set to leave for Europe, that Jax and Brittany were like, oh, or they were on their way to Europe, like on their way to the airport. And Jax and Brittany were like, oh, sorry, we weren't able to make it happen because the passport for cruise didn't get here in time. And so we're not going to be able to go to Europe. And Stassi was really annoyed because she's like, my wedding invitation list was brought down to 35 people. Jax and Brittany were 2 of those people. They pulled out at the last minute. We could have given those seats to somebody else that really wanted to be there, or that could have been there had they just let us know they had no intentions of going from the beginning. Brittany's been very clear. She's like, we absolutely had every intention of going, but it was all about Cruise's passport, Cruise's passport, Cruise's passport. Well, Stassi posted on her Instagram story, little baby, her little baby, got his passport. And she posted a photo of the baby in what's the baby's name? Oh my God, why am I blanking? I know there's Charlotte. But what is, Messer. So she posted a little baby Messer on her Instagram story. Beau reposted it. Or I don't know if Beau posted it and she reposted. I think Beau posted it and she reposted it. And it's baby Messer with his passport. And the caption says, it only took 2 weeks. Boom. Basically implying like you could have had your shit together and it would have all been good. It would have all been fine. Oh, it's not baby Charlotte. It's baby Hartford. Sorry. I was thinking Meghan Markle because she's like a big Meghan Markle fan. And Meghan Markle's baby is Charlotte, right? Someone has a baby Charlotte. There's a baby Charlotte somewhere. Charlotte's Web. Web of mess. So that was a little shade she was throwing at Jax and Brittany. And she's like, she didn't say we're still married, but I mean, it was also kind of like a flex that they are still married and Jax and Brittany are having their issues. Now, this is a good point that Mallory makes. To be fair, Jax and Brittany were trying to get it during pandemic era. Yes, that is true. Oh, Meghan Markle's baby is Lil Bet. That's right. So it's Meghan, the one in the basement. Not Meghan, Princess Kate. Princess Kate. Yes. Which we still don't know what happened there, right? She was just like, she came out with her little AI video and she's like, I have cancer. And then she like disappeared. And now who knows? Kate could still be in the basement. All the conspiracy theorists, where'd y'all go? I was waiting for you to crack the code. Okay, so Charlotte is Kate Middleton's baby. Got it. Whew. What did Jax and Brittany were BSing about the reasons and their defense wait times were longer back then. Yeah, I will say that. It was pandemic era. Everything was delayed. Travel was fucked up. That like I get it. I do get it. I understand that there were possibly delays, but I do love a little shade, and I love that Stassi and Beau threw this shade as they should. I think Beau did it. Beau seems a little more messy. But because I love you guys so much, I wanted to give a couple of you some shout outs for the reviews that you left on No Filter. Michelle says, my favorite morning tea, love it or hate it. Zack is unapologetically himself. We may not always agree, but I think his ability to give his opinion while also being open to hearing the opinions of others is what allowed him to create a diverse community of listeners who can engage in healthy debate. Zack has a spicy exterior with a sweet heart, and listening to his content is a welcomed mental escape during my weekday morning routine. Thank you, Michelle. We also have Ida Hogan who said, "Great podcast. I enjoy listening to Zach's takes on all things Bravo. Fun and entertaining podcast. Keep up the great work." We had Laura Bell 10 who says, "I love Zack Peter. So funny, talented, knowledgeable, and in the know. I love watching him. I've been watching him since he was rocking the bleached hair for a long time, and I loved that look, but I really love the natural black. It makes him look so handsome and much younger. Thank you, Zach, for sharing your talent and keeping us informed. You are magical and splendid. Magical and splendid. Oh my God." And then Vanara Malife, Van Aramalife says, "Great take. Zach is very good at seeing things from different perspectives. Zach doesn't just bend to the masses and rabid fans. He has a backbone and has humor. Great podcast." Yay. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. Oh, we have one more that I'll read. Only because these are so nice and I love that. You guys are so sweet. PMB2727 says, "Authentic podcasting. I found Zach after the scandal, heard round the world. I listened to several others about everything Bravo, and he seems so much more authentic than many others. He does try to look at different angles, and even if the mob of fans attack him for having his own opinion, he is compassionate, and he is more than the entertainment podcaster. He has a heart for community on many levels. Thank you, Zach, for the entertainment and your philanthropic heart." You guys are so sweet. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate that. Michelle Fletcher said, "Just joined and started at the beginning. Didn't Kathryn hit a crossing guard that was an off-duty cop or something a while back? How come she never gets in trouble for that? I never heard anything." Listen, she is out there. She is doing all the things, and she needs Jesus. She needs Jesus. Jesus returns for revenge. Oh, does he? Okay. Shall we talk pump rules? Well, before we do, I do want to say shout out Dry Farm Wines. You guys know I've been talking about them. I love Dry Farm Wines. I was having some Dry Farm Wines last night while I was watching the Vanderpump Rules reunion. It's clean, hangover-free wine because there aren't any added toxic chemicals or junk added into the wine, right? It's good, clean wine. There's no sugar in it. It's low carb. It's keto friendly. It's paleo friendly. Third party tested for purity, lower in sulfites, so you don't get that wine headache. Farmed organically, vegan, and even better, you get your first bottle for just a penny if you go to dryfarmwines.com/Zack. That's ZACK. Dryfarmwines.com/ZACK right now. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it. Get it. Get it. Go to dryfarmwines.com/Zack. Get your first bottle of Dry Farm Wines for just a penny. It's a curated box that they send straight to your door. So you don't have to worry about going out in your sweats and your hair up in a messy bun. They'll send it straight to you. So go check them out right now. Dryfarmwines.com/Zack. Okay. Pump rules. Danny says she thought Pump Rules reunion was a snooze fest and came in not expecting a lot. I miss the golden days. Yeah, but everybody wants authentic reality TV. Nobody wants entertaining. Everybody wants everyone to have boundaries now. I want to have boundaries. And when I have boundaries, we create a boring television show. So, let's see. We open up with Lala saying that she thinks that Katie acts different off camera than she does on camera, especially in relation to her frustrations with Ariana, which she never expressed on camera. Katie basically admits to that by saying, "Well, the reason I didn't say those things on camera is because I had already moved on from it. I was over it. Thank you. Next. Moving on." Right? Which I kind of get, but I think Lala makes a good point of saying, then like you should have said that on camera. Like she just wanted Katie to acknowledge like you did have frustrations with Ariana, but it feels like you're afraid to say that. Instead, we see Katie criticizing Lala for Lala making her remarks about Sandoval and Ariana on camera. And Katie's like, "Ew, why are you defending Sandoval?" And so I understand Lala's frustration, because Lala's like, "But you said these things off camera that you're not willing to say on camera. And I get it that you've moved on from it. Then why didn't you say, hey, I know there were moments where I felt those same frustrations that you're expressing now. I've just moved on from that. And this is why. This is how I moved on from it, Lala. These are the steps that I took. And maybe you should take a couple of those steps and you'll move on from it too." And so I get it, right? And Ariana says that Katie has always been herself. And Lala's like, "Yeah, I agree. Katie has always been herself." That's why it's weird that this season, Katie wasn't being herself. She wasn't being entirely authentic. But I think it is because, like I've said before, Katie knows that she has a legit business to protect. She wants to protect something about her. And listen, that's kind of the reality. Part of protecting the brand of something about her is protecting the outward facing brand of Katie and Ariana together. Women power, burn your bras, rah rah, let's get it. That's part of their feminist brand that they want to champion, and I think that that's great, but that does bring a level of, like, I can't fully be myself on camera. And listen, this is the issue with reality shows in general. When you have more to lose, that's why, like, a lot of these really rich, wealthy housewives aren't going on, or like real housewives aren't going on the television show Real Housewife, because they have reputations and businesses and stuff that they want to protect that they don't want out there. And that's the challenge when you have people on reality television for 11 years, is eventually they do lose that level of authenticity. One, because they become hyper aware of audience reaction. They become hyper aware of the television show that they're filming, which they know is supposed to be entertainment. They also become hyper aware of their own reputations in the public, and then when you have businesses that you don't want to tarnish, you want to make sure that you're protecting that. But it would be totally natural, and I would absolutely understand if Katie just owned the fact that she was frustrated with Ariana, which she kind of does, but she's like, I was over it. I got over it. It wasn't that big of a deal. But it's like, but that's also the reality. Everyone that talks about them wanting the show to be authentic, that's part of the authenticity of what it takes to run a business, is you're not always going to agree and be on the same page with your business partner. So I get it. Then they talk about Sheena and Schwartz kissing. Cool. Then we get into Ariana having boundaries, which Lala says she respects the boundaries. She just doesn't understand the boundaries, which I understand as well. Ariana claps back by saying, well, it's not your job to understand my boundaries. It's your job to just simply respect my boundaries. And Lala's like, I respect your boundaries, but they don't make sense, because you don't want anybody fucking with Tom Sandoval, and yet you're literally sleeping down the hall from Tom Sandoval. She's like, it doesn't make sense to me. She's like, you have this like rage towards Sandoval, and then at the same time you are dating this new guy already. And then and I think it is a bit strange, right? Like, I think when boundaries get a little too strict, it hurts a reality show. Same thing with the Kardashians. That's why when I watch the Kardashians on Hulu, I don't fucking like watching Kendall and Kylie, because they're just like, we have boundaries and you're not going to see our life. You're not going to see our relationships. You're not going to see our kids. Like, we'll show up and film this cheeky little scene, but then it's like, how authentic is that? When you set too many strict boundaries, there are parts of your life that you don't open up to the audience, and therefore that is not authentic. Yeah, it's authentic that you have boundaries, sure, but it's just like, a reality show isn't an Instagram story, right? Where you can show off whatever you like, whenever you like, however you like, and be fully organic in that. A reality show is a produced piece of entertainment television. Sorry to burst your bubble. I know that this may be news to some of you, but that's what it is. Sorry to break it to you, but a season of a reality show typically has a storyline, and those storylines are built out of edited scenes from footage that is filmed over the course of multiple months. And then they take that footage and they package it together to entertain us. It's not, a live feed of their lives 24/7, where we're watching them take showers and shit and brush their teeth in the morning. It's a television show. Same thing like with the news. The news, like, I think people also don't even realize like how produced the news is. The news is produced to sensationalize and to, invoke reactions, and most of the time fear in you. That way you stay glued to the news and continue to watch it. It's all with the intention of creating ratings. It's part of the job that we all do. They're all aware of this, not just Lala. Ariana's aware of it too. That's why I think it was self-produced of her when she walked out of the finale, because she herself said, I don't want to be part of Tom Sandoval's redemption story arc on the show. That's a hyper level of awareness of the television that they're filming and producing. So she's aware of the storyline and actively chooses to disengage because she doesn't want to help Sandoval win over the audience. That's a hyper awareness. I think there's a way for her to engage and not allow Sandoval to win. I think her exiting in that way kind of allowed some people to lean more onto Sandoval's side, because they're like, oh, we'll see, he's trying and she's not trying. But listen, they all do it. Lala does it, Sheena does it, Ariana does it, Katie does it, Sandoval does it. They're all hyper aware of the show. They're all hyper aware of the audience. They all, lean into it or lean out of it when they want to. But I get it. Ariana doesn't want Tom to win the game, which is what she said. She was the final boss, and he was mad that he couldn't get to the final boss to win over the audience. So she's aware that there is a game. I get that. I wouldn't want him to win either. I understand her being fucking pissed at him and not wanting anything to do with him. But it's like, then don't come back to the show. It was my same criticism of Rachel when she's like, I don't want anything to do with the show. It's so toxic. And then she can't stop talking about the show. But I understand why Ariana does what she does. But I also know that when we look at it from the bigger lens, it does hinder the show, and it does become frustrating for the cast. And I understand the cast's frustration because you have to look at it as like a work project or a school project, right? There's always that one person in the group that doesn't want to carry their weight, right? That doesn't want to stay up late the night before the project's due because the project needs to be finished. But one person's like, oh, but I have boundaries and I need to get an early night's sleep so that I'm well rested for tomorrow. But yeah, that's going to be frustrating for the rest of the team members because everybody would like an early night's sleep. Everybody would like to throw their boundaries on the table. That doesn't mean that the project magically gets finished on its own. No, the rest of the players have to then carry the dead weight. Right. So when one person dips out or one person doesn't give their full, that puts more pressure on everybody else. And when one person doesn't give their full, that does hurt the group project overall. So, just because your name goes on the project doesn't necessarily mean you gave the same amount of effort. And, frustrations builds resentment as a result of that. And people are, yes, absolutely entitled to their boundaries, but other people around you are also entitled to their feelings and their reactions around your boundaries. And you have to understand that as well. If I have a boundary and I put that down, other people may not like that. Other people may not want that. And it may be conflicting or challenging. And there may be reactions or feedback from me expressing my boundaries. But you also have to be mindful of like how your boundaries affect other people too. I think there is a level of awareness that we need to have of like just basic, empathy of like, hey, my actions do affect other people. And if I want to be super strict with my boundaries, I have to consider how that's going to affect other people. And maybe that means that the show isn't for me. If my boundaries have become too strict and I know that it could possibly be hurting the success of the show long term, then maybe my best thing to do to still honor my boundaries, but to also, not try to hurt anybody else is to just disengage and completely leave the show altogether. And so I think Ariana's just at that place. I don't think the show's ever been much of a priority for her. I support her living her best life. Go and do Broadway, go and sell sandwiches, go and do Dancing with the Stars, get all your paychecks, buy all the batteries, right? All the Duracell batteries. I want you to have drawers and drawers of Duracell batteries so that you never run out of batteries and Bic razors, all of it, right? I want you to be successful, but I just don't think this environment is the environment for you anymore. And that's okay. Then we get into Sloppy Joe, who I actually kind of did feel for in part 2 of the reunion. Sloppy Joe went from Sloppy Joe to Soggy Jo. And the cast really rallied around her because it appears that Schwartz did indeed kind of lead her on. I don't think it was intentional. I don't think he was intentionally trying to lead her on, but he was breadcrumbing her or doing little things that maybe she was picking up on. It's interesting because I heard Nick Vile's assessment of this, and he thinks that Joe's more of the one that's in the wrong. He's like, listen, she's a grown adult. She knew that he wasn't giving her his full 100. And I think she took the breadcrumbs, hoping that the breadcrumbs would eventually turn into a loaf of bread, and they weren't going to. And he, I think I love that Nick brought that up in a sense of like, we need to take some sort of personal accountability because I feel like in the culture that we're in right now, it's always everybody else's problem. It's always everybody else's fault, right? If we're talking to a guy and he does breadcrumb us for 6 months, it's his fault. He's the asshole. But it's like, no, at what point do we take personal accountability and be like, okay, maybe I'm getting breadcrumbs, but like, why am I continuing to put myself in the situation where I know I'm not getting what I know I deserve, or not even deserve, what I want, right? If what I want is to be in a relationship with him and he's not willing to give me that, I'm the one that's continuing to choose to put myself in this cycle. And at some point, I need to walk away and disengage. Right. So I think I see it again from both sides. I know that's not the fun answer that people want to hear because everyone wants me to be like, rah, 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 fuck Schwartz, fuck Tom Sandoval. Sorry. I mean, I have deep compassion for Joe. I think we've all been there, right? We've all had a scenario that we swipe on Tinder and we find a guy and he's so hot and he's 6'5" and blue eyes and works in finance and has a trust fund. It's a TikTok joke. But and it seems perfect and you're like, "Oh my," you go on a date and it was a great first date and you're like, "Oh my god, we're getting married." It's all happening. And then next thing you know it, like we're hyping it up in our head more than it actually is in reality. And then we stay in a situation and let it drag on because we hold on to hope when the reality is it's probably not going to turn into anything more. We've been there. I think we can all relate to Joe. But I think if anything, these are learning lessons and, opportunities for us to become more empowered and for us to I'm not trying to absolve Schwartz of any blame because he definitely contributed to this. And I hope he's able to learn something from his fuckboy behavior as well. But I'm just saying, personal lesson, personal accountability is that you then start to become aware of these things that you don't get caught up in this cycle again. And next time you don't stay for 6 months, you stay for 3 months. And next time you don't stay for 3 months, you walk out in the first 2 weeks. So you see shit and you're ready to dip out and bounce. You know, those games aren't for you. I remember one time I went on this date with this guy on Bumble. We were chatting, having a good time and whatever. And then we agreed to go on like an late lunch, early dinner sort of date that could have easily like trickled on into the evening. But so one, he showed up to the date late, and then he gets there and he tells me, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I was coming from another date and that ran a little long, so I'm so sorry that I'm late." And I'm just like, "You're okay, whatever. You came from another date, whatever." And then as the conversation was going on and as food was coming and drinks were coming, then he like looks over at the bar. He's like, "Oh my god, those girls at the bar keep staring at me. Like I can tell they're totally into me and like they want me." I'm like, "Okay, that's annoying." And then finally, like towards once dinner was starting to end, he is on his phone and then he puts his phone down on the table face up, and it shows me that he's actively on Bumble during our date. And I'm just like, what? Like, clearly you get off on the fact that you want to make me jealous in some way, which it's not working. If you were late because you were on another date, then that to me tells me you have poor time management skills, and I'm not interested. And then if but I'll still continue the dinner and continue the conversation because I've already committed to this and we're here and whatever. And then you keep talking about how everybody in the restaurant keeps checking you out and everybody wants you and they all want to fuck you and whatever. Again, you're getting off on the fact that you think that this is going to make me jealous. Okay. But then the Bumble thing, when he puts the phone face up on the table with the Bumble app open, that immediately tells me you want me to see that you're on Bumble to show that you're in demand, right? And I'm just like, listen, nah. And that was the final straw for me. And I was like, you know what? Thank you. Next. I'm out. I literally got up from the table, grabbed my phone, and just walked out of the restaurant and went home. I was like, I'm not going to play these games anymore. I've been in situations where I've allowed people to try and make me feel jealous and I've allowed them to try and play these games with me. Not going to do it anymore. You reach that point where you're just like, nah, not going to do this. Going to break the cycle, going to break the chain. Okay. Oh man. That would have been a great disaster dater story. Well, maybe I'll give the full story. This was kind of like a condensed version. Um, Yeah, the guy definitely sounds like he needs therapy. Faux show. Zach, at 40 years old, you should know how to read the room. Oh, did we think I was 40? Listen, honey, at 75 years old, you should find something more productive to do with your time than shade people in the live chat. Oh, you're saying, I was like, you're calling me 40 years old? Well, because somebody else said Zach's not 40. So I was like, you're calling me 40 years old. I get it. Sorry. Sorry. But yeah, I agree. Tom Schwartz is a tremendous tool. He hit his midlife crisis 15 years ago. Listen, he definitely has a lot of fuckboy tendencies, you know? So I don't love. I'm hoping that he also sees this and learns from it as well. Yeah, self-reflection, right? I mean, but Schwartz, these guys on Vanderpump Rules keep getting themselves in the same damn cycles. And it's like, no, at some point you need to learn. Because the other fucked up part is like, not only did he go from like breadcrumbing Joe, but then he went from breadcrumbing Joe to then dating somebody else immediately after. And she's this young girl. And he's like, oh my gosh, she's so hot and she's so pretty. And literally Joe's right there next to him crying. And I'm just like, Schwartz, like, awareness, level of awareness. Which, my goodness, Schwartzy, maybe we need to give him a little therapy time too. But I like that the cast really does rally around Joe. It does appear that Schwartz led her on, so I feel for her in that sense. What else happens in the reunion? Lala's been sober for 5 years. Incredible. Congrats to Lala. James lives by all the airplanes. Amazing. You know, you go, JJ the jet plane. We have assistant Anne who loves her camera time. Is anybody else annoyed with assistant? At this point, I'm over assistant Anne. I'm like, I don't care about your podcast. I don't care about your batteries. Like, good for you. Get your check. Do you? I'm good. I think we're overhyping assistant Anne. What did she do? Nothing. Literally nothing. And also just from like a business perspective, like you're in your boss's house while you're interviewing for another job with your boss's ex, like that to me is also messy. It's great for reality television, right? It's great for the scandal of it all. But just like from a, you know, a hiring perspective, I'm like, that doesn't show much like loyalty to your employer. I don't know. I just see Anne all over the place. Seriously, the Toms learn. I want the Toms to learn. Then we also have like Jax who like just perpetually does not learn and is not growing at all. Yeah. Then we get to the dogs. Oh, okay. There's a lot to talk about with the dogs, but we'll briefly get into the dogs because I do have to wrap soon because I have to run into the studio to tape the pop report. But okay, you might not like my opinion about the dogs either, but I have dogs now, so I feel like I have, other ideas about this now. James thinks that Ariana is entitled to the dog because Ariana says that she purchased the dog or adopted the dog, Maya, right? Sandoval calls James out because he's just like, oh, well, what about when Rachel took the dog in her breakup with James? And James, you felt like that was unfair. And I'm like, what? It's the case of the stepdog? But like Graham and Maya were both adopted / purchased during the relationship. And so both James and Sandoval contributed to taking care of the dog. So, I understand like Ariana's other dog was pre-Sandoval, right? That was her dog all on her own. So I get, her claiming full ownership over her other dog. But the new dog, yes, she technically paid the adoption fees, but like they took the dog in together. They took care of the dog together. They both walked the dog and fed the dog and did all the things with the dog. So, like for me, any man that comes into my life now, I have Sky and Sully, and those are my dogs. You're not taking my dogs. And listen, if we adopt a new dog together, that's different. But Sky and Sully are my dogs, and they will remain my dogs because they were my dogs prior to the relationship. And listen, I also understand that like dogs get attached to certain people and like you want to factor that in too and like be mindful of like the dog does love other people despite whether or not those people were great in the relationship or not. But I think that like the dog was brought into the home together. So I understand how Sandoval feels connected to the dog and in some way attached to the dog. And I think James is being a little hypocritical here because he now has Rachel's dog. And I feel like Rachel's dog was a little bit of a different situation because even though they brought the dog in together and raised the dog together since the dog was a puppy, it's a little different because Rachel, her family bought her the dog as a graduation gift. And so technically the family gave the dog to Rachel, but Rachel brought the dog into their shared apartment and they raised the dog together. So I think that James is being a little hypocritical that when it comes to Sandoval and the dog, but then Sandoval brings up, the rumors and he's like, well, We know about the rumors about you and all the things that people are saying about you. And he's just like, what? And I think people are taking that as like the allegations that have been put out that like I know Kristen has claimed that like James is abusive and Rachel's claimed that James is abusive. They haven't said anything specifically. They haven't shared any specifics. I mean, obviously we know James gets very like emotional and has anger issues when he drinks. I don't remember ever seeing him be physical. We've seen Kristen hit James on Vanderpump Rules. So I think their relationship was probably just like toxic. Remember, we saw them in the parking lot. Was it Katie's wedding or someone's wedding? And she was like slapping him across the face. And she's like, James, leave me alone. She like hits him. So that tells me that their relationship definitely felt contentious. And then he was also gross back then too, right? Remember he spit on her door when he was leaving after the breakup and said like really nasty, awful things. So I feel like Sandoval, I don't know what he was trying to allude to or what he was trying to say. Maybe he was trying to say that James was abusive towards Graham because it was brought up within the context of the dog. But I don't know what Sandoval was alluding to, but he was alluding to something. It seems Tom wants the dog as a way to control or hurt Ariana. I don't think so. I don't think he cares about hurting or controlling her. What does he have left to hurt or control? I think he wants the house because he's like, nah, I'm not moving. I'm not going to get a new house. Like, I want this house. I think it's selfish and entitled of him to want to keep the house. Like, fuck off. You cheated on her and you have Raquel's coochie juice all over the house. And what, you want to keep that? No, you don't get to keep the house. I don't like him keeping the house. I feel like I've made that very clear. But I understand how he's kind of like, oh, well, he wants to stay in the house because he feels like it is his house. And if Ariana wants to leave the house, then like he should be able to keep it, right? Whatever. I don't think he's doing anything to control Ariana, though. I think he genuinely wants a house, probably because he knows he can't really buy another house and he doesn't want to move into an apartment. And then with the dog, I'm sure he had an emotional attachment to a dog. Like, people are humans and they're multifaceted, and he's allowed to be a jerk that cheated, but that also has an emotional attachment to a pet that he helped take care of. I get why he'd want to keep the house. Yeah, listen, if he doesn't keep the house, he's going to have to move into some cheap North Hollywood apartment that he's going to have to live in with a roommate or two. He can't afford the house. Exactly. That's why he wants to keep the house, is because he's like, I can't afford the house. I can't afford anything else. Like, he's going to want to keep that as much as he possibly can. So, like, I get why he wants to keep the house. I don't agree with him keeping the house, but I understand why he would want to keep the house, because he doesn't have anything outside of that. Yeah, true. They bought it together when interest rates were still low. Yeah, very true. He genuinely wanted and had no clue how the money house. Yeah. He genuinely wanted the house. Yeah, I believe that. Brian says, I still can't believe how much everyone overpaid for their houses. We're going to see Vanderpump foreclosure in 3 years. Really? My phone is blowing up right now. Is that really a Lego mosaic? Who did that? Oh yeah, there's a specific artist that does them with the Legos. So that was real. I don't know what they're doing with that after all. Therapy house with all the Bravo men. What a shit show that would be. That would be great. I would love to watch that. He can't refinance the house. Yeah, I don't know what he's going to do with that. He should just sell the house. That's the smartest thing to do. I understand he wants to keep it, but I think he wants to keep it for his own like ego and validation rather than he's trying to keep it to hurt Ariana in some way. Okay, that's it. Thank you guys for listening to No Filter with Zack Peter. I love you. I appreciate you. I'm sending you all the good love today. Happy Hump Day. New episode of Pop Report will be out today, so be sure to tune into that. And we have a new episode that will be dropping on Friday. I'll be back here on Thursday with a new episode of No Filter, because Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we have new episodes of No Filter with Zack Peter. So you can stream it first thing in the morning on YouTube, or you can definitely check it out on all podcast platforms. So let's get it. Give me a follow at Just Plain Zack all over the internet. Be sure to check out Drive for Minds. If you want a personalized message from me, you can book it on Cameo right now. The link is in the description below, or you can go on the Cameo app, look up Zack Peter, or my handle is Just Plain Zack all over the internet. So go check it out. All right. I love you guys. I appreciate you. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. Ciao for now. See you later. Bye. Goodbye. 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 Oh, there's Andy. Don't forget your iPad today. I won't, Mr. Luwani. I'll be there with my iPad, my first little school polo. All right. Bye, guys. Love you. Ciao.